All right, so it's 8 o'clock. We're gonna get started. You should see a PowerPoint on my screen. If you are not seeing a PowerPoint, can you unmute yourself and let me know? Okay, cool. I'm gonna assume that you can see it. So, welcome everybody. Today we're gonna be talking about ritual engagement and navigating virtual ritual. So, in saying that, I don't want to mislead you. We're not going to be talking about actual virtual ritual today. Basically, so if you participated in virtual ritual from last semester, the way we set it up was that each chapter had a national council member call in and run their ritual session with them, or for them, I guess I should say. In this case, now I'm going to be rewriting virtual rituals so that chapters can run it themselves. So you're not going to have a national council member calling in anymore. You guys are going to be expected to kind of, I don't know why I can't close this window. You're going to be expected to run them yourselves. There was a lot of feedback about how the virtual ritual was way too short. There was a lot that was taken out of it, and you really felt there was a big aspect of it missing. I am like super hyper aware of that, and I felt the exact same way. I did everything I could to make it as special and important and include as much of ritual as I possibly could. But given the short amount of time, it really wasn't possible for me to dive in and make this a whole official ceremony, I guess I should say, that included every aspect. So hopefully this time around you guys will be more impressed with them. You'll like them, and they'll feel a little more special even though it is in a virtual setting. So what will happen is when I finish writing them up, which should be the first week of September, I should be done. We're going to be sending them out. I'm not quite sure how we're going to get them to you yet. We're still brainstorming that. But it'll be, so basically if you're doing an in-person ritual, it'll be exactly the same way that you've been doing it. And you can work with me if you need to do like a socially distanced in-person kind of ritual. If you're going to be doing it virtually, you're going to get the all new virtual ritual and description of how to run it, as well as including some of the songs and stuff, which I know people were kind of bummed about. So that's kind of like a logistic thing. But today I'm not really talking about the changes to ritual or the virtual ritual itself, but more so how can we engage people? How can we keep people excited about ritual? And really just going back to kind of the basics of why is it important and what do we need it for our organization. I got with it. This can really help in a this can also help for an in-person ritual as well. So let's get going. Okay, so this kind of shows that ritual is what connects all of us. So it's really easy to find your corner, your circle in your chapter, in the organization, whether you're really passionate about philanthropy, new member education, recruitment, sisterhood events, social events, or being engaged with your alums, or if you are an alum, it's really easy to focus kind of like make your focus of FIRO what you are passionate about or what you're good at really. So one thing that you don't really hear a whole lot about, what was your favorite part of being in FIRO was, oh, I just loved ritual. I loved when we get together and do induction and initiation ceremonies. I just really thought it was special. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, which is understandable. We all like to be, we're all engineers, so engineers are, technical majors, so we're go-getters. We want to go out there and do the thing, so with ritual, I understand that maybe it's not everybody's favorite part. But the really special thing about special thing about ritual is it's truly what connects everybody in the organization. So for me, I graduated in 2016. I was part of the Michigan ADA chapter. I was in their Chi class. I majored in mechanical engineering. So my experience as a sister of Phi Rho is vastly different from what anybody else would have. And so each of us has a really unique experience within the sorority. But truly what makes us sisters and what brings us together and bonds us is ritual. When you look from chapter to chapter, the only thing that's truly consistent between all of us is our ritual practices. So I think that's really special that we have so much diversity throughout our chapters and the way that our chapters run and what things our chapters like to participate in. And but ritual is exactly the same from chapter to chapter. So it kind of brings us back to the core of who we are as an organization. It's a common experience that every member can say, yep, I've been in ritual. I have participated there. And really in times of transition and change, which our organization is going through a lot of change right now, and we're currently in a transition period. We just brought on a lot of new volunteers to the organization. Our ritual really reminds us of what our base values are and what our organization was founded on, so that way we can kind of reflect on the evolvement of Phi Rho as an organization. So even though we're changing, our core values and where we really are, the heart of us, is going to stay the same. So what does ritual provide? This is kind of like a given, but it brings us to the center of who we are, creating a collective identity and a united front, giving us a sense of belonging, helping us to transition to a new period, maintaining connection between all sisters, and increasing the bonds of our community. I mean, it's pretty given. That's not something that's super special to Phi Rho. I would say that's more of like a sorority thing, but just kind of, I want to bring it back to like the total basics to kind of get to my point and where I'm going with this. So why do we even do it? It's easy to say, well, yeah, okay, we perform rituals because we need to induct our new candidates, our new members, and then we need to initiate them so that they become sisters. When we have new chapters, we need to install those chapters. And then we've got some of our voluntary rituals as well, where we perform them during weddings or memorial ceremonies. But really at the end of the day, every fraternity and sorority, in terms of ritual, the core purpose of ritual is the same. But what sets us apart, the core of what our organizations are is the same. So we are bringing a sense of community. And even our ritual, the purpose for ritual is the same. So, we're bringing new members in, and then they're becoming actives. That's even the same from all fraternities and sororities. But what truly sets us apart is what our ritual consists of. So it's what makes us unique. It's where our values lie and are taught to our new members, and kind of reminds us, kind of puts us in Abby and Rashmi's shoes. Like, what were they truly thinking of when they started this organization, and where were their thoughts? Where did those lie? And it's really cool that we have like direct quotes from them, explaining what their thoughts were. And it's amazing that we have them here. But the truth of the matter is most fraternities and sororities don't have their founders here to talk about the organization. And so ritual is truly what is the core of that, of who they are and what their identity is. So in kind of like in today's climate, because everything is so virtual, it's really important in engagement to remind our members of the importance of ritual. So like from an honest standpoint, I can remember being an active member and showing up for initiation, and I really wanted to care so much about ritual but my mind was focused on 100 things, honestly. As a college student, you probably all understand homework, exams, social events, friends, roommate drama, whatever it is that you're dealing with is going to, ritual has to share that space. And so it's kind of easy to set it aside and make it not as important in the time when it needs to be important. The truth is that ritual takes up like 4 to 6 hours of your entire semester. So thinking about it like that, it's not in the grand scheme of things, it's not something that's really time consuming. So we really need to make sure that when it is something that we're doing, that we are living in that moment and we are focusing on it completely. So I just put some kind of like buzzwords on here, reminding you of the importance of ritual. I'm not really going to talk about them because it's kind of self-explanatory, but when you are bringing ritual to your membership and you're saying like, look, here's why this is so important to us, and I can see that engagement hasn't been great, or when you show up to ritual, you're not giving 100%, try to bring up some of these words to help you like remind them of the importance of it. So here's my recommendations. Rituals, so here's where I'd start. Talk to your active membership. Remind them that your ritual is what is basically what's used to store and transmit information across time and across generations. So that's like a direct quote from some article I was reading, but it's used to store and transmit information across time and across generations. If you're showing up to ritual and you are, pardon my language, half-assing it, or you're acting like you don't care and you don't want to be there, and you have all these new members coming in and they're seeing this, and they're seeing this behavior, and they're seeing the kind of like lack of dedication to 1 or 2 hours of your evening, of one evening, that's how ritual is going to be portrayed for generations. As a senior, I remember a lot of other seniors not wanting to participate in ritual, or not caring about ritual, or being annoyed with ritual. Their attitudes directly impacted that kind of first impression that these new members, who are typically freshmen, would get, or how they would feel about ritual. And now you've got this new class coming in who already next semester hasn't even done anything for a new class yet because they've been brand new members, already not caring about ritual and not wanting to be part of ritual, or making excuses to not show up or care. So reminding people that if you continue to act like this is how future generations are going to act when we are trying to teach new members about the foundation of our organization and where we come from and what our roots are, I think kind of would hit home, and be blunt about it and be straightforward about it, that if you're not caring about ritual, which is the base of our organization, you're potentially ruining this experience for a new member, and they're just going to have like a jaded view of it going forward. Our ritual is absolutely beautiful. I'm sure you all experienced it, so you know that it perfectly captures I think FIRO as a whole. And so if we have new members seeing that we're not really interested in ritual, or it's just something you have to take care of from semester to semester, it's kind of disappointing that that's the image that we want to create for these new members coming in. So for our ritual, like I was saying, rituals they likely have more meaning than what words can say. So I think that is something that's really important in ours, because there's so much symbolism in our ritual beyond what words we're saying and things we're describing, and the way that we move, the way we stand, the way we think. You know how all the things that we do just beyond words is symbolic. And I think it's really important to highlight that to your active members as well. When you are not putting forth effort, you aren't helping to, from like a physical standpoint, show what our ritual is, what it symbolizes. And from a virtual standpoint as well, I know you're not necessarily physically standing where you typically would stand in a ritual, but having feelings towards ritual that are nothing but, this is an incredible part of my organization, is definitely not helping to capture the art that is our ritual. So for most sorority members, and this is just sororities in general, when you first experience ritual, like I want you to think back to your very first ritual ceremony, and you're standing in the room and you're like, what the heck are these people doing? What are they doing? What are they saying? I'm really confused. Why are we moving this way? Like, it was super, for me, it was a real weird experience, and I did not understand any of it. And even after I'd gone through my candidate period, I still didn't fully grasp what ritual was, or the meaning behind it, like the deep meaning behind it, really until I'd been an active member for a little while. And then I get to know the organization a little bit more. So for some members of the sorority, it takes time for ritual and its message to kind of penetrate their mind, I guess I would say. And I just think like it's gonna take a different amount of time for each person to like really understand the meaning behind it. So the way that it's performed is definitely going to have an impact on how you remember it. So I remember my very first ritual ceremony. Unfortunately, there were active members who were laughing through it. And so that was a memory that stuck with me. And I was like, okay, like, are we supposed to laugh? Like, is this supposed to be funny? And turns out they just really didn't care, you know, they just thought it was kind of a joke. And so once I got to my first go around as being an active member participating in ritual, it was like, okay, like, are we supposed to laugh now? Like, it was just kind of an off-putting sort of thing. So remember that every time you perform ritual, you are further kind of like you're diving deeper into the heart of our organization, you personally, but then everybody else around you. So if you're not taking it seriously, other people around you are not going to take it seriously. I was reading an article that references a book that was written about like ritual in general, just so not just sorority ritual, but it was like wedding rituals and religious rituals. And there's a part of the book where the sorority ritual is personified. And I was reading this passage from this book, and it's really funny because the author's basically saying like, nobody wants me most of the time. Nobody wants me around because I'm annoying and I'm irritating. But then like 1 or 2 times a semester, everybody's scrambling to find me. And when they do find me, they're not really diving deep into what I mean. They're just trying to memorize me. And so they all take turns ripping me out of each other's hands, memorizing me. And then there's one part where it's like, one girl says, let me just write down my part. And then an argument starts because over whether it's legal or not to copy down parts of the ritual. And it was just kind of funny because I can remember like being in that position as an officer, my first time as an officer actually participating in the ritual. It was like, oh crap, like I don't know anything about this. I have to review ritual, and I've got 15 minutes before the ceremony starts. And so kind of going off of all of this, my first recommendation, something we did for about a year when I was an active, was we practiced parts of ritual way before ritual was supposed to happen. This kind of helped us incorporate ritual into like our chapter meetings, so we could have like open discussions about ritual and the meaning for us. But then it also kind of helped us to get familiar with different parts of the ritual. So that way, instead of panicking about what we were supposed to be doing and when, we were like, oh yeah, I've done this before. This is something more familiar. And then you can actually enjoy what ritual has to offer for you. So practicing parts of ritual like in advance before it's supposed to happen is something that's helpful. So each week, take a part of your ritual and take 10 minutes during your chapter meeting and just go through that part. Practice it. Similar to that, holding a ritual one-on-one for newly initiated members. So this is beyond membership education. So now we're already initiated. We are brand new actives. We just became actives last semester or last quarter, and now we're active members and we're expected to participate in ritual as actives. But like I said, kind of a little while ago, I still don't fully understand ritual. I don't really quite I don't quite get it yet. I've only been through it through each ceremony once. So through two ritual sessions, and both times I was really distracted and really confused, and maybe people weren't taking it seriously. So consider maybe you have a ritual chair. I'm assuming it's mostly presidents on this call. If you aren't a president, or sorry, if you don't want to handle it as president, maybe you have a ritual chair who does like a ritual one-on-one, like a 1-hour meeting for your newly initiated members. So you can kind of deep dive into, okay, here's what you're experiencing, and this is what this means. And then also consider involving alums. And you can reach out to your alums to come in and explain to you or to your chapter kind of how ritual has impacted them as an alum member. Because I can tell you, as an alum, ritual is still something that's very meaningful to me, even though I'm not actively participating in it twice a year. It's still something that I like to look at from time to time. The base morals and values of ritual are still things that I live by in my daily life. And so consider like maybe having an alum call into like a Zoom call or something like that and talking about their experience with ritual. I think a really big thing that can kind of flip the switch for people is hearing other people's experiences and how it's really impacted them as a sister or them as a person. And so if you see that it's really affected someone in a positive way, communicating that with your membership is a way that you could kind of curb their interest, I guess. And then lastly, so this kind of falls a little bit more on me, but national programs. So I'm really looking into doing like ritual discussion sessions where I can get together with active members and we can talk about different parts of ritual, and we can go over to make sure you're capturing this correctly in your ritual session, or really you can just ask general questions, or we can just have open discussions because we're all sisters and it's something super special that we can all talk about with each other. But really kind of in the grand scheme of things, putting it into action, putting ritual into action really is only going to work the way it's supposed to if it's understood, if its meaning is properly communicated, and then also if its intent is properly communicated. You are allowed to be a little hard on your active members when we're talking about ritual, because this is something that is very much expected of them. It is expected that they participate, that they understand every aspect of the ritual, and that it's something that they live by. These are our values. This is our organization. And so these are kind of some of my recommendations for engaging people. And then if you have people like individuals who are causing problems with ritual, you are allowed to one-on-one communicate with them that remind them of what their expectations are. And I really find it's easiest when you kind of pull someone individually and say, what does ritual mean to you? Or what do you think ritual means to this organization? Or what do you think ritual means to your sisters? Because most of the time they're probably, unless they're being real snarky, aren't gonna really have much of a response if they know that they weren't taking it seriously and they know they weren't taking it seriously. And I mean, I think just them understanding that what they're doing is negatively affecting other people, if they are kind and compassionate like we want our sisters to be, they'll be like, okay, I gotta check myself, So that's kind of all I have. I wanted to stop. Okay, I wanted to hot back off. Okay, so I kind of do we have anything in the chat? Okay, nothing in the chat. Does anybody have any like questions or anything that they want to say in response to that? Any recommendations for anything? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Do you recommend that we redo the initiation for our spring classes? Like, will the virtual, if we still have to do everything virtually, will there be enough more in the ritual that it makes sense for us to redo that?
So I think that there definitely will be more. So I'm going to say it's up to your chapter. When you receive the ritual, you can kind of look over it and determine if that's the way that you want to go with it. You're welcome to re-perform it, but I think that it gets difficult because then it's a matter of like, are we really going to require everybody to attend this? Again, since they technically were already initiated, I would hope they would be excited to experience the full thing, but I know that that's not necessarily the case for everybody. So if they don't want, it's kind of up to you. I guess I would not leave it up to your chapter to decide. I would as an executive board, talk about that and then make that decision yourselves. But I do think it would be important, if you're not going to perform the whole ceremony, to do something kind of simple or similar to like a ritual 101 with those, or with those new members. I don't know why, I feel like I'm like having a stroke right now. I can't get sentences out. A ritual 101 with those new members, and go through the ritual with them and explain to them the parts that we weren't able to perform and why that's important to them. So I guess I would leave it at that. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Laura, would you recommend getting a room on campus for a couple sisters to set up the table to be shown on Zoom during the ritual? I think that would be awesome. If you're not totally virtual, I would highly recommend having the setup for ritual somewhere on camera. I think it's a super important part of the ceremony. The way that it's written, you don't need any physical materials, obviously, like materials or I keep wanting to say routines, that's not right. The way we stand, I don't know why I can't think of the word, but like none of that's required. Yeah, I think if that's something you're able to do, setting up the table so people can at least get that visual of what we're talking about is super, I think that's super important. Any other questions or ideas? Does anybody have any like really creative ideas for making ritual special that they want to share?
This isn't an idea, sorry.
Okay.
But do you have any idea when we'll get the ritual materials for last semester's class, like their pins and things? Because we're figuring out how to get them gear items, and we'd love to get them their active pins before we do induction so that they can wear them with the rest of the actives.
Yeah, I didn't realize you guys didn't get those. I think that kind of, well, I think it fell apart because of COVID, but then also our transition to the new executive director. It's something that the executive director handles. So I actually just sent a chapter just emailed me about it. And so I'm talking to Kat right now about getting the materials out to the chapters. So I don't have an answer for you as to when, but I will make sure to get on that, and then I'll send you guys an update when you should be expecting it. I'm assuming that if you submitted them last semester, potentially your address has changed. So if that's the case, could you send me an email with your new address, and then we'll be able to reference, as long as you filled out the form on chapter spot, we should be able to reference that. But shoot me an email if your address has changed, and I will make sure we get that out to you.
Okay. Do you want an email even if the address is the same, just so you know for sure?
Sure. Yeah. If you want to email me and just say, we haven't gotten our materials, this is my chapter, let me know. I think that would be, but we'll go through everything. I really don't think anything was sent out. Yeah, I'll have to get with Kat. She hasn't done that before, so I kind of got lost in the transition, but we'll get it figured out for you guys. Carolyn, how would you advise addressing an entire chapter that doesn't take ritual seriously as opposed to just one or two sisters? I really think that if it's a serious problem, let's schedule a call with me. Because that makes me sad if there's an entire chapter that really isn't taking ritual seriously. I'm sure that, at least I would hope that your officers are, and that they would have enough influence to be able to kind of remind the chapter of the importance. But if I would recommend setting aside time like we're doing now, talking about the importance of ritual and reiterating it. And you don't have to do it from like a historical standpoint, like, oh, ritual is so important because It is the basis of our foundation. Like, that's really obvious. Everybody knows that. Come to it from a point of like, you are ruining this for future generations of Phi Rho sisters at this chapter. So keep in mind that when you're not taking ritual seriously, this is the message you're sending across to all of the new member classes that come in here, and then they're going to continue to not take it seriously. So our current members have such an impact on the future generations of Phi Rhos that come in and the way that they treat ritual. And ritual is so sacred, and I know that it doesn't seem like serious, or maybe it doesn't seem super big right now, but as an alum member, it is much more apparent how similar we are, how connected we are by ritual. If your whole chapter is really not willing to see it and they're not willing to listen to you, then talk to me so we can set something up, because that's a mindset shift that is not going to be easy, especially if it's your entire chapter and you don't have anyone taking it seriously. Because honestly, I can remember being an active member, and there were a few sisters who every ritual would laugh. Every ritual would make some kind of funny noise and make a joke out of it. And it honestly was really uncomfortable. And I'm not saying I was perfect, but like, it was really weird. It was like, this is supposed to be something super special. And there's people who are becoming brand new members of the sisterhood. They've worked an entire semester to get up to this point, and you're just making a complete joke of it. And it's not funny. So if that's the case, we kind of need to get down to the root of the problem. And maybe we say, if you're not going to take ritual seriously, then you're not going to be allowed to be part of it. Instead of saying you have to be part of, or you have to come to initiation for X amount of points, we say, yeah, no, we're only actually going to send an invite to ritual for the people who are willing to take it seriously. But if that's a really big problem, if you have a conversation with your chapter and they're not taking it seriously, then I think that it would be appropriate for us to have a meeting where I'd be happy to address your entire chapter. Yeah, I almost think it's more difficult when it's like one or two sisters. For me, if it's a whole chapter, I think I could stand up there and just be like, why aren't you taking this seriously? This is super important. But if it's one or two sisters, I'm like, so you guys, okay, so heard you kind of laughing. I'd rather just yell at a whole group of people then too. but yeah, I think it's something that's so important, and I understand it can get in the way, especially at the time of the semester. Right around exams, you've got final projects, your presentations due, your candidates are stressed out by school, like it's not just you guys. I understand that, but it is like 2 hours of your life, and 2 hours of your life at the beginning of the semester, 2 hours of your life at the end of the semester. It is completely doable. And now that we have this virtual setting, so girls don't even have to travel to different parts of campus, they can literally sit here. I'm sitting in my sister's childhood bedroom right now talking to you about the importance of ritual. And it's super, and if I would love to participate in a ritual ceremony right now, like I'm game for it. There's literally no excuse for them at that point. So if they're gonna laugh or not take it seriously or whatever, then yeah, then we need to do some work. What else do you guys have?
I know this might be a kind of off the wall idea, but we have people in Phi Rho who are super good at like coding and stuff. And I was thinking it would be really cool if there was a way to do it where it was like, you know, like Club Penguin-esque, where we can actually do the formations and like do ritual in a virtual space. I have no idea how to make that happen. That is not my field. But I don't know if there's any like alumni who actually know what they're doing when it comes to programming who might be able to make something like that happen, because I think it would be super fun for the new members.
I love the reference to Club Penguin. Like
we did a Club Penguin social last spring, which is kind of like what spurred this.
That is my guess. Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I will, of course, I didn't bring a pen here because I'm dumb, but I'll let me write that down. So like coding something, so you're saying so we could see the different formations and like
yeah, like some kind of website for rituals where everybody would like log in and have a little character or something, so they would be in the actual formation, if that makes sense. And then it would still be like a Zoom call to do all of the talking and singing or whatever, like platform. But then it would mean that people can actually move. And I was thinking specifically for initiation, the like walking down the bridge part. Like it would be really cool if they could actually do that, like with their big. I'm doing a lot of air quotes, which I recognize you can't see. um, but something like that, because I feel like the formations are important, especially in initiation, and it would make it feel like everybody's like there in the same place,
Yeah.
even if they're not actually all in the same place.
So I like that, and I'm not sure it's something we'd be able to get done before this fall. So right now I have like visual pictures kind of laying everything out for you. So if you are doing it virtually, you can have some sort of like PowerPoint slide up so they can see what you're talking about, or what formation you would normally be standing in. But I think that's a really good idea. We're all really smart people, so it is definitely something somebody should be able to come up with. Um, the only issue I see is like keeping everything super private. So we probably have to have some sort of platform that would allow us to like log in. I'm not sure if we could do that on ChapterSpot.
Yeah, that was my thought, is if we could log in through ChapterSpot, then at least we know it's like secure.
Yeah. I'll have to run it by council, and then we'll see if we can maybe get something to do or someone to do something cool. Because so this ritual is not officially voted on ritual. This is an extension of like the emergency. What is it? I don't know. I guess the like emergency virtual ritual that was approved by council because of COVID. So basically, it's saying we're only allowing this right now because even though it's not an official form of ritual, we're only allowing it right now because of this of COVID, this emergency that we have going on. But in the future, when we don't have restrictions for in-person ceremonies, we'll have a virtual ritual that we're actually going to vote on. So that way, if someone isn't able to be there in person, they can still participate in the ceremony from a virtual standpoint, and it would still count, if that makes sense. So it's something that we'll vote on, but that's probably something we would be able to work on once we start that actual virtual ritual proposal, if that makes sense. But I think that's a really good idea. I think the visual aspect, I mean, I was talking about how ritual goes so far beyond the words that you're saying. The visual aspect is also so important and symbolic. So I think it would be really good to have some sort of like, maybe not interactive, but like kind of like a visual that shows the moving parts to it, I guess. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think having this setup at least of the table will help. Like if whoever has the ritual materials in the chapter can set that up.
Yeah, I think so too. And it really, I mean, it sets a tone for, I think like the table for me when I first came in was something that was super intimidating. So I was like, oh God, what is that? Like, what does all that stuff mean? So I think having that kind of shows of like the seriousness of it when we can't have the formations. So yeah, that's a good idea. Anything else, guys? Throw the questions at me or the ideas or whatever. So I am writing the rituals now. I should be done first week of September. By then we'll have a plan as to how we're going to distribute everything. So I'm guessing you guys are mostly presidents, or ritual chairs, so you'd be in charge of it if you're attending this. So what I'll do is probably email the chapter presidents for a good address, and then the ritual will likely be mailed. So we'll have to coordinate all of that. But like I said, I'm not quite sure on how we're going to distribute it yet because I want to make sure it gets to you guys like way in advance so you have time to go over it and ask questions and send me corrections if need be. So yeah, and then if you are doing a virtual ritual, like I said, council's not going to be conducting them this year, so it's not going to be how it was last year. It'll be more of what the in-person format is, so whoever's supposed to read certain things will be reading them. But I think that you definitely might see council members popping into your ritual sessions. So just be mindful of that. It's not to like get anybody in trouble, but more so just to kind of observe and see how it's working and kind of where the problems are and what changes we need to make if we do decide to make this something that's official. But I don't want to catch you off guard and just show up to your meeting and have you be like, oh my God, we've got council members here. So that's definitely something that is a possibility. They'd kind of pop in and observe. So if you get an email from someone asking for the link to your Zoom meeting, please share it. It's more so just for me so I can see where I made some boo-boos and what I need to fix for next semester. So does anyone have anything else that they want to chat about, talk about? Anything? Or any questions about literally anything at all that isn't ritual related? Even? I can't tell if you're typing. Okay, Laura. This has been my like biggest issue. Is there a way to make singing better since Zoom only allows one person to speak at a time? No, no, there's not. And I have done so much research to try to figure out. Have you guys seen those commercials where I think they're like, it's like NFL commercials or something where there'll be 4 people on Zoom singing a song, harmonizing together, and you're like, why does it sound like we're all getting hit by trains when we try to do it for ritual? And it really, it irks me. It makes me angry. So I don't think there is a better way. From everything I've researched.
Sorry, if you want to talk to me about this more later, I'm a music major, so I actually know what some of these things are to like make audio work better on Zoom.
Okay,
I haven't tested it for singing because I'm not a singer, but I'd be happy to work with you on it.
Melissa, will you shoot me an email so we can chat about it?
Yes.
So right now my solution, so we have all the audio recordings for the songs. If you have a sister who sings and is comfortable singing in front of people, that's not me. But if you do, my solution is you can have them sing, or you're welcome to just play the audio. Or if you have a sister who plays an instrument who wants to play them on the instrument, we have all of the I don't know any language around music. We have all the like notes on there. What is that called, Melissa?
The sheet music. It's all in the sister manual.
My fiance is like a singer. His dad's in a band. Like I should know all this. Yes.
Some of it's not great though. We should rewrite the one for Infinity. It's written really poorly.
Okay, good to know. I literally look at that and I'm like, okay, yep, that looks good to me. It says the title at the top and there's notes on there. So I will chat with you, Melissa, but we have the sheet music. So if somebody wants to play the songs on an instrument, it also, if you have several people in a room together, so I super embarrassingly tested this out with my fiance. Like if we're sitting next to each other and we sing, it sounds fine. But if he calls me on Zoom and we sing, it sounds horrible. So yeah, I will chat with Melissa, but those were kind of the things that I found, which is all listed in the virtual ritual. So I tried to not only like give you the ritual as it is on paper, but also give you like little recommendations for each section as to like how do I best handle this? How do I best handle this? And I'm sure I'm missing things because it's been a hot second since I've actually participated in ritual. But I'm willing to like literally take any kind of recommendations. But I did really want to include the music, even if it's not necessarily everybody being able to participate. At least it's there because it is super important and I think a really cool part of our ritual. So, but I'll get with Melissa. So hopefully I'll have a better answer for you. Another thing, I know that we're not allowed to make any sort of recordings for ritual, but something I would like to do is kind of from a national standpoint, create a recording of people singing it. I have to kind of look at the logistics of that and like from a secrecy standpoint, if we're allowed to do something like that. So I don't know that that will be ready necessarily for this semester, but in the future, it might be something that we'll be able to incorporate. Anybody else have anything? In a Ritual 101 PowerPoint, what would you put in it? What would be some good ideas for it? That's a good question. I don't know that I would necessarily make a PowerPoint because we can't make any kind of copies of the ritual or anything like that. So I think it would get too difficult to kind of create a visual for it. But what I'd recommend is kind of just doing like a little roundtable thing where everybody brings their manuals in and we all kind of go through different parts of the ritual. And if you have like a ritual, I know Michigan had like a ritual binder. I'm not sure if all chapters have that, but we have a binder with all of the materials in there that shows all the different formations and how the symbolism of that and everything on the table and the symbolism of that, and kind of go through the ritual with them. You can even walk them through it if you want to, so it's not like an official ritual ceremony, but you're showing them like, oh, when you did this, this is what that meant, or when we were talking about this, this is what that meant. So I know for like this past semester, the new members didn't really get to fully participate, so it would kind of be more of going over it from scratch with them because this is something they've never seen before. But if you're able to get some active members together who'd be willing to walk through ritual with some new members, I think that'd be good. As far as a visual, I don't think I would really create anything for them, but I'd definitely recommend they have their ritual there in front of them so they can kind of reference it and then just walk through it with them and let them ask you questions or whatever. And I think that'd be a really good way to, even with active members, like if you just did some sort of small group thing with them, you could have like small groups of actives get together and work on ritual and kind of perfecting it and making it a little bit better. So that way, when you're actually doing it, you're not focusing on like, where am I supposed to be standing? And you're focusing on more like, oh, what is the meaning behind this? Kind of rehearsing it, I guess I would say. It might be worth putting something like that together, having small groups, even if they're on a Zoom call, go through, you know, different parts or, you know, what it means to them. But yeah, I would shy away from using any kind of PowerPoint. And then also if you're going to do anything over Zoom call, it cannot be recorded and distributed. So it would have to like strictly be a call. And then you'd also have to be really mindful of who's in the area, because when we're talking about ritual, obviously other people outside the organization can't listen in. I know that we kind of made exceptions to that last semester because it was like, well, everybody all of a sudden had to go home and now they're living with their parents or their roommates and they're holed up in their house and, you know, they can't really get privacy. So I understand that, but we need to also just need to be mindful of, you know, what information we're sharing and who's around us. So, but yeah, I'd be willing to create like a ritual 101 thing. I'm also in the midst of redoing all of member education right now, so I don't think I'd be able to get that done till like, or start working on that till like mid-semester, like mid-October, late October. But I'd be willing to work on something like that, or like a program you guys can follow, so that it makes it a little more streamlined, if that's something you'd be interested in. Yeah, no problem. So we've got like 10 minutes left. I'll just hang out here. If you guys have questions, feel free to hang on and ask. If not, if you are happy and satisfied with what we've talked about, then you're welcome to sign off. And I appreciate you being here and participating and being willing to chat about this. So, and thanks for the questions and all the comments and all the help. I'm no more of a ritual expert than you guys are, so everybody's input is really important, especially now when we're virtual. So thanks, guys.